So, generally, the rule is that, I know this, I've seen it even in my family. Generally, my grandfather was really tall and my grandmother was very short. So, it makes for most of the kids end up pretty short, but you have some that still end up being actually pretty tall. And you can even have some taller than the father. But generally, that's the way it works. In my family, I mean, both of my parents are short, so generally, all my brothers and sisters are short, but some are a bit taller, because, well, on my dad's side, there's some taller people, and on my mom's side, there's some taller people. So, because some of my cousins are actually really tall, and especially on my mom's side, some of them can actually be really, really tall, especially the ones that came from the aunts that are tall. So, basically, what happens is that they exchange lots of these kids, too. It doesn't work that way for a tall person to have super short kids. It doesn't. It doesn't happen. It doesn't matter how short the father is. The father can be super short, and the kids will still turn out tall, because the mother's tall. But if the father's really tall and the mother's short, the kids will most likely turn out short. And if both parents are just short, then the kids always turn out pretty short, but you can have some that are a little bit taller, and that's the variance you get from the grandparents, in general. And, if your parents, have, a decent, both are pretty tall, well, then those kids, they always turn out tall. They never come out shorter. That just doesn't happen. That's the general rule. Always as tall as the mother. And when they're shorter than the mother, it can't be much. It has to be a tiny difference. Not one you would notice much. I've done the studies on this, and I've done it on humans, and I've done it on animals, and this is how I discovered how genetics works generally. I mean, we say XY, and women have these extra genes, and they have these extra genes, they're dormant, and these extra genes are extra genes they can give to their kids, so they actually give a bigger variance in the kids than the men. But then this also means that it's actually the men that are the biggest part of these kids. So generally, you get more of parts of the father, because those are all active genes. And you get sometimes less of the mother, not all the time, because all her genes aren't necessarily active. So you get that going on too. But the height always seems to be from the mother's side. So it's not always seems, it is. It always is. It's like all the girls that I had kids with, all these women that I had kids with. My kids that were with tall women were always tall. My kids that were with short women were always pretty short. But generally. Because I'm actually supposed to be taller. I probably lost more inches. Actually, not probably. I lost more inches than anybody else. The constant estrogen and the drugs they put in my system and everything stunted my growth greatly. So I'm actually supposed to be at least 5'7", which would have been a bit taller than my father. But I'm a lot shorter because they gave me the estrogen. And I say this, well, and like, they do this to boys, they'll be a lot shorter. Not necessarily. I've actually done it to a lot of others, and I'm just, people are different from one to another. We have different genes, different genetics, and we react differently to what we're given sometimes. And I tend to react a little bit differently than most, so I kind of lost a little more in inches there. But the thing is that I'm still taller than my mom, and I'm not that much shorter than my dad, so. But then that's why I have some brothers and some sisters, like 5'8", 5'7", it's like, it varies. So I have, I would have been, as tall as my brothers. Generally, my brothers are about 5'5", 5'6", generally. So that's part of it. That's how it works. And I did this stuff on animals too. I mean, it's obvious. I would just measure them. I'd wait till they were adults. I would make sure they wouldn't have babies until they were adults. Because that was part of it too. I did that experiment too. I had some have babies young, and then I had some others have babies older, and I noticed there was a difference. That the ones that had babies younger tended to be not as tall, short, long. I guess they didn't have the same width. They tended to have shorter width, and then I did the tests when they're adults after, so to make sure that they had their actual height. So I waited till they were mature, and then I would do that. So that also became obvious that it seems like the height is actually something that comes from the mother's side very much. All the time. Pretty much.